Chapter 1. Let me take you back to that fateful evening in Chicago. The sky was so dark, it felt like the whole world was holding its breath. I remember sitting by the window in my apartment on the 20th floor of a high-rise in Lincoln Park. The city lights below were twinkling like tiny stars, but inside, my heart was heavy. Emily sat there, lost in thought, her fingers tracing the edge of an old photograph lying on the glass coffee table. It was one of those pictures you'd frame and keep forever, two young people smiling into the camera, their eyes sparkling with love and hope for the future. That was her and David, taken just after their wedding, when life seemed so full of promise. Their story began 3 years ago in the most ordinary way possible. Emily had been rushing to an important presentation at work, grabbing a quick coffee at Starbucks near her office. That's where she met David, tall, charming, with a smile that could light up even the grayest Chicago day. He was working as a barista back then, pouring lattes and making cappuccinos with that artistic flair only true coffee enthusiasts possess. Their conversation started with something as simple as, "Do you mind if I practice a new latte art design on your drink?" and grew from there. By the time the store manager announced they were closing, neither of them wanted to part ways. They ended up walking through the streets of Chicago, talking about everything and nothing until the early hours of the morning. David was everything Emily thought she wanted in a partner: attentive, supportive, funny, and deeply understanding of her career ambitions as a marketing specialist. Their first year together was like living in a dream. They explored the city hand in hand, attended every festival and concert, and turned even the simplest moments into unforgettable memories. But as they say, time has a way of revealing truths we'd rather not see. Chapter 2. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. At first, Emily dismissed it as her own insecurities playing tricks on her mind. Late-night calls when she thought he was already asleep. Maybe he was just catching up with friends from his previous job. Secretive behavior around his phone. Probably nothing serious. Everyone needs their personal space, right? But the little things piled up over time. There were mornings when he'd seem unusually distracted, glancing at his watch constantly. Sometimes he'd mention a friend named Kate, always in passing, never giving much detail about who she was or how he knew her. Emily tried to shake off these feelings, telling herself she was being overly suspicious. The breaking point came unexpectedly one Friday evening. Emily had left work early to surprise David at home, wanting to spend a quiet weekend together after a stressful week. As she unlocked the door and stepped inside, what she saw froze her blood. There they were, David standing by the window, looking out at the city skyline, and Kate sitting on their couch. The atmosphere between them was electric, charged with a familiarity that went far beyond casual friendship. Emily stood there, rooted to the spot, watching the scene unfold in slow motion. "Emily, what are you doing here?" David's voice broke through the silence, filled with panic but strangely lacking guilt. Kate quickly stood up, her face flushed red, stammering some excuse about just stopping by for a quick chat. In that moment, Emily realized everything she had suspected was true. The man she loved, trusted, and built a life with had been leading a double life right under her nose. Chapter 3. The aftermath was devastating. Emily moved out immediately, unable to stay in the apartment that now held too many painful memories. She found a small studio in West Loop, a place where she could start fresh, away from the ghosts of their shared past. For weeks, David bombarded her with calls, messages, and even showed up at her workplace begging for forgiveness. He promised to change, swore it would never happen again, pleaded for another chance. But Emily knew deep down that trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. Her days became a blur of work and solitude. Nights were the hardest, lying in bed alone, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of their relationship in her mind. She questioned herself endlessly. Was she not enough for him? Did she miss warning signs earlier? Could she have saved their marriage if she'd been more attentive? Friends tried to support her, inviting her out for drinks or suggesting therapy sessions. But Emily preferred to deal with her pain in private. She threw herself into her work, rising quickly through the ranks at her marketing firm, earning promotions and accolades that would have made David proud. If he was still in her life. Epilogue. 6 long months passed before Emily learned of David's death. It came as a shock while reading the local newspaper during her morning coffee routine. A construction site accident, one of those random tragedies that remind us how fragile life can be. David had been working there temporarily, trying to make ends meet after losing his previous job. At the funeral, Emily stood quietly in the back, unnoticed among the mourners. She watched as Kate approached the casket, her face streaked with tears, holding a single white rose. In that moment, Emily felt a strange mix of emotions, sadness, anger, and finally, acceptance. Life moves on, whether we're ready or not. Back at her apartment, Emily opened a drawer filled with mementos from her marriage, photos, letters, small gifts exchanged over the years. Holding the old wedding picture in her hands, she allowed herself one final moment of grief before carefully placing it back in the drawer. As she closed the lid, Emily knew this chapter of her life was truly over. The pain would never fully disappear, but it would become just another story she carried with her, shaping who she was becoming. And maybe, just maybe, someday she'd find the courage to open her heart again. Because isn't that what life's all about? Learning, growing, and finding love in unexpected places.